The bright lights of the Galactic Council chamber hurt Ambassador Zethkar's eyes as he read the report for the third time. His long, thin fingers shook slightly as he turned the pages. For many months, their deep space sensors had picked up strange signals from the outer edge of the galaxy. The signals came from a system they had never seen before, a place marked on their maps as Sol 3. The other council members sat around the huge round table, their different alien faces all showing the same worry. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking plants. But they all shared one thing in common. They were all afraid of what might be coming. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the New Horizon. His hands gripped the metal rail in front of him as he stared out at the stars. Earth was now just a tiny blue dot behind them, so far away he could not see it anymore. This was humanity's first trip to meet aliens, and Jake felt the weight of his entire species on his shoulders. The alien message had been short and simple. It came through their radio 3 months ago, translated by their best computers. Come alone. Bring proof of your people want peace. That was all. No other information. No warning about what to expect. Lieutenant Susan Blake checked her instruments. For the 100th time that day, she was the ship's expert on alien life, though she had never actually seen any aliens before. Her job was to study any new life forms they might meet. The readings on her screen made no sense. The alien ship that waited for them ahead bent light around it like water. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever built. Jake had picked his crew carefully. Each person on the New Horizon was the best at what they did. They had trained for 2 years, learning everything they could about space travel and first contact procedures. But nothing could really prepare them. For this moment, Captain Susan called out from her station, "I'm reading massive energy levels from their ship. Whatever powers that thing could probably destroy a small moon." Jake nodded but kept his face calm. His crew needed to see confidence, even if he did not feel it inside. "How long until we reach?" "Them 15 minutes, sir," replied his pilot, a young man named Dave, who had the steadiest hands Jake had ever seen, on the alien ship. Council Representative Vextel prepared for the meeting. He had met over 200 different species in his long career as a diplomat. Most first contacts followed the same pattern. The new species would be nervous, eager to please, and somewhat primitive compared to the Galactic Council's advanced technology. Vexel looked at himself in the mirror. His blue skin was perfectly smooth, and his large black eyes reflected no emotion. His people, the Malari, were known throughout the galaxy for their calm nature and diplomatic skills. They rarely felt strong emotions and almost never showed fear or anger. But something about this new species made him uncomfortable. The preliminary scans of their home world had been disturbing. Sol 3, or Earth as they called it, was a nightmare. Planet by galactic standards. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with a poisonous gas called oxygen that would kill most galactic species in minutes. Worse yet, the planet was covered in water. A liquid so corrosive it could dissolve many alien body types. How had any intelligent life survived on such a world? More importantly, what kind of creatures had such a hostile environment created? The New Horizons engines powered down as they approached the meeting point. Jake could see the alien vessel clearly now through the main window. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ship looked like it was made of living crystal, changing colors as it moved. No sharp edges, no visible weapons, but something about it seemed dangerous. "All stop," Jake ordered. "Susan, are you picking up any life signs?" "Yes, sir. Count about 50 beings aboard their ship. Their biology is unlike anything in our databases, but they appear to be carbon-based, like us." Jake straightened his uniform and walked toward the airlock. The plan was simple. He would meet with their representatives in the space between the two ships, a neutral meeting ground where both sides could feel safe. What Jake did not know was that the aliens had been studying humanity for weeks. They had intercepted human television signals, radio broadcasts, and internet communications. What they found had shocked them to their core. These humans fought constantly, not just with other species, but with each other. Their history was filled with wars, violence, and conflict on a scale that horrified the peaceful galactic community. Worse yet, they seemed to enjoy it. They made entertainment out of violence, told stories about warriors and battles, and celebrated their most successful killers as heroes. But there was something else in the human broadcasts that confused the aliens. Mixed in with all the violence were acts of incredible kindness. Humans would risk their lives to save complete strangers. They cared for their sick and elderly. They even showed compassion to other species on their planet, protecting animals that served no practical purpose. The aliens could not understand how one species could be both so violent and so caring at the same time. As Jake put on his space suit, he thought about his family back on Earth. His wife Mary and his 2 children would be watching the news, waiting to hear about this historic meeting. He had promised them he would come home safe, and he intended to keep that promise. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Jake floated out into the empty space between the ships. The alien vessel extended what looked like a bridge made of the same crystal material as their ship. It was beautiful, but Jake noticed it was also incredibly strong. His suit's sensors showed it could probably support the weight of a building. 3 aliens floated toward him from their ship. They moved gracefully, like they had been born in space. Their suits were works of art, covering bodies that seemed too delicate to survive in any harsh environment. Jake felt like a clumsy giant in his bulky human-made equipment. The lead alien spoke, and Jake's suit translated the words into English. "Greetings, human. I am Vexthal of the Malari people. We represent the Galactic Council, a union of peaceful species that governs this part of the galaxy." "Greetings," Jake replied, trying to sound calm and friendly. "I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing Earth and the human species. We received your message and came as requested." Vexthal studied the human carefully. Even through the spacesuit, he could see that this creature was built differently than any species he had ever met.
Ow.
The human's shoulders were broad, his movements were controlled but powerful, and there was something in his eyes that suggested barely contained energy. The aliens' advanced sensors began scanning Jake automatically. What they found was impossible. The human's bone density was 3 times higher than it should be for a creature of his size. His muscle fibers were packed so tightly that his physical strength was off their measurement scales. Most shocking of all, his reflexes were faster than their scanning equipment could accurately measure. "Captain Morrison," Vexthal said slowly, "we must ask about your world. Our long-range scans suggest your planet has some unusual characteristics." Jake smiled, not knowing that his expression looked like a predator showing its teeth to the nervous. "Aliens. Earth is a pretty tough place to live, that's true. But it's home. We've learned to make the best of it." Vexthal exchanged glances with his companions. Making the best of it? This creature spoke about surviving on a death world, like it was a minor inconvenience. What kind of species were they dealing with? The meeting continued for another hour, with both sides sharing basic information about their peoples and their intentions. But as they talked, the aliens began to realize they had made a terrible mistake. They had invited what might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy to join their peaceful community, and the humans had no idea just how terrifying they truly were. Dr. Lisa Carter stood in front of the largest gathering of alien minds in the galaxy. The Galactic Assembly Hall was enormous, with thousands of seats filled with beings from across the stars. Some floated in special tanks filled with gas. Others sat on platforms designed for their unique body shapes. A few hung from the ceiling like giant bats. Lisa had been chosen to give humanity's first official presentation to the galactic community. She was a scientist who studied how life developed on different worlds. Her job was to explain Earth and its history to these alien species. She thought it would be simple. She was wrong. "Thank you for allowing me to speak," Lisa began, her voice carried throughout the hall by translation devices. "I want to tell you about our home world, Earth, and how it shaped our species." She pressed a button, and a holographic image of Earth appeared above her head. The blue and green planet rotated slowly, showing its oceans and continents. Many aliens in the audience made sounds of surprise. Some even seemed to back away from the image. Commander Pete Rodriguez watched from the security section. He was in charge of keeping the human delegation safe during their visit. Pete had fought in 3 wars on Earth and had learned to read danger in people's faces. Right now, he was seeing a lot of fear in the alien audience, and he did not like it. Earth is what we call a water world, Lisa continued.
Ow!
About 70% of our planet's surface is covered in liquid water. The rest is land, with mountains, forests, deserts, and ice caps. She did not notice the growing alarm in her audience. To humans, this description sounded normal. To the aliens, she had just described a planet covered in one of the most dangerous substances in the galaxy. High Counselor Miravan, a being that looked like a walking flower made of crystals, spoke up. Her voice shook as the translation device carried her words. Dr. Carter, did you say your world is covered in liquid water? Yes, Lisa replied, confused by the question. Is that unusual? The hall erupted in nervous chatter.
Ow! Many species
in the galaxy could not survive contact with water. To them, Earth sounded like a planet covered in acid. Lisa pressed on with her presentation, not understanding why everyone seemed so upset. Our planet also experiences regular seismic activity. We have earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and shifting tectonic plates. These geological processes have been going on for billions of years. Professor Bobby Davis, the mission's historian, sat in the front row watching the alien reactions. He was starting to understand what was happening. These beings lived on peaceful, stable worlds. They had never experienced the constant danger that shaped life on Earth. Excuse me, interrupted Council Member Thexpol, a creature that looked like a giant insect. You mentioned volcanic eruptions. How do your people survive such catastrophic events? Lisa smiled. Well, we've learned to predict them and avoid. The most dangerous areas? Of course, some eruptions are so big, they affect the whole planet. The one that killed the dinosaurs changed our entire climate for years. The silence that followed was deafening. Lisa looked around the hall, confused by the reaction. She had just mentioned a planetary extinction event like it was a piece of interesting history. The dinosaurs? Asked another alien voice. Oh, yes, Lisa said, pulling up another hologram. They were the dominant life forms on Earth for about 165 million years. Giant reptiles, some as big as buildings. A massive asteroid impact wiped most of them out about 65 million years ago. The hologram showed a T-Rex, its massive jaws filled with teeth longer than a human hand. Many aliens in the audience made sounds of terror. Some actually left their seats and moved toward the exits. Pete Rodriguez's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm. His military training told him that scared beings were dangerous beings. He caught the eye of Lieutenant Amy Phillips, who was stationed on the other side of the hall. She nodded, understanding his concern. Dr. Carter, said Vextel, standing up from his seat in the front row, are you telling us that your planet regularly experiences extinction-level events, and your species evolved anyway? That's right, Lisa said, finally starting to understand why everyone looked so frightened. Earth has had 5 major extinction events that we know of. Each time, life found a way to survive and grow back stronger. She clicked to the next image, showing early human ancestors. Our species developed during one of the most challenging periods in Earth's history. The climate was unstable. Ice ages came and went, and we had to compete with predators much larger and stronger than us. The hologram showed a saber-toothed tiger attacking a group of early humans. The humans were using stone tools and working together to drive off the massive predator. You learn to use tools, make fire, and work as a team, Lisa continued. The weak died, and only the strongest and smartest survived to have children. This went on for millions of years. Dr. Rachel Wells, the mission's medical officer, watched from her seat as several aliens began having what looked like panic attacks. Their breathing was rapid, and some were making distress calls. She started to move toward them, but Pete caught her eye and shook his head. Now was not the time to draw more attention to human capabilities. But surely, said Elder Sage Corinthal, his ancient voice barely above a whisper, your species must have found peace once you developed intelligence and technology. Lisa's expression darkened. This was the part of human history she was not looking forward to explaining. I'm afraid not. Once we eliminated most external threats, we began fighting each other. Our recorded history is filled with wars, conflicts, and competition for resources. The hologram changed to show images from human history, ancient battles, medieval wars, modern conflicts. The aliens watched in horror as humans used increasingly sophisticated weapons against their own species. We estimate that in our recorded history, humans have been at peace for less than 8% of the time, Lisa said quietly. We have fought with swords, guns, bombs, and weapons that could destroy entire cities. Commander Pete Rodriguez felt the mood in the room change from fear to something much worse. These aliens were no longer just scared of humans. They were terrified of them. Doctor, said Miravan, her crystal body actually glowing with stress, you're describing a species that evolved in constant warfare on a world that regularly tries to kill everything living on it. How do you have any compassion or morality at all? Lisa paused. This was the question she had hoped to avoid, but it was also the most important one, as we learned that working together was the only way to survive. Yes, we fight. Yes, we're violent, but we're also capable of incredible kindness. She showed new images, humans rescuing each other from disasters, doctors treating wounded enemies, soldiers sharing food with starving children, people risking their lives to save complete strangers. We learned that the strong must protect the weak, Lisa said. Not because we're told to, but because we understand what happens when they don't. Every human child learns about the consequences of violence by studying our history. Agent Carl Jackson, Earth's intelligence officer, had been quietly monitoring alien communications throughout the presentation. The chatter he was picking up was not good. Words like containment, quarantine, and elimination were being used more and more frequently. Dr. Carter, said War Chief Gaxer, a large reptilian being with scars covering his scales, what you describe sounds like a species of warriors bred for conquest. Why should we believe you? Come in peace. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Lisa looked out at thousands of alien faces, all waiting for her answer. The future of human-alien relations depended on what she said next. Because, she said simply, if we wanted to conquer you, we wouldn't have come alone in one ship to ask permission. We would have come with a fleet, and you never would have seen us coming. The truth of her words settled over the assembly like a cold wind. These beings had invited predators into their peaceful community, and they were just now beginning to understand what that meant. High Military Commander Cressethel stood up from his seat in the assembly hall. He was a tall, powerful being from the Krathan warrior race, covered in thick, armor-like skin. His people were considered the strongest fighters in the galaxy. Over 300 years, he had been the Council's top military advisor. But even Cressethel felt uneasy after hearing about humanity's violent history. These Earth creatures claimed to be peaceful, but their own scientists had just described them as planet-wide killers. There was only one way to know the truth about their real abilities. Dr. Carter Cressethel said, his deep voice echoing through the hall, "Your words are troubling. The Galactic Council has rules about admitting new species. Every race must pass a combat assessment to prove they can defend themselves and others." Captain Jake Morrison stood up from his seat. "We're willing to take. Any test you think is necessary?" Cressethel smiled, showing teeth like metal spikes. "Excellent. We have a standard simulation that every species must complete. It tests tactical thinking, physical ability, and mental strength under pressure. The current record is held by my own people." 2 hours later, Sergeant Amy Phillips and Corporal Mike Turner stood outside the simulation chamber. They were both career soldiers who had served in Earth's most dangerous military operations. Amy had been a Special Forces operative for 8 years. Mike had survived 3 tours in combat zones that most people considered hell on Earth. "This should be interesting," Amy said, checking her equipment one more time. She wore standard Earth military gear, body armor, helmet, combat rifle, and various tools. To human eyes, it looked normal. To the watching aliens, it looked primitive and crude. "Remember," said Lieutenant Colonel Danny Price over their radio, "they think we're just another peaceful species trying to join their club. Let's not give them nightmares." Dr. Rachel Wells monitored their vital signs from the observation deck. Around her, dozens of alien scientists watched with their advanced instruments. These beings had technology that could scan every cell in the human body and track their thoughts in real time. "Beginning simulation," announced the computer in perfect galactic standard language. The chamber around Amy and Mike changed instantly, found themselves in what looked like an alien city under attack. Buildings burned in the distance. Strange. Creatures that looked like metal spiders scurried through the streets, firing energy weapons at anything that moved. Their mission was simple: cross the city, neutralize the automated defense systems, and rescue a group of hostages. Most species took between 15 and 20 minutes to complete this task. The galactic record was 18 minutes and 43 seconds, set by a team of Krathan warriors. Amy and Mike looked at each other and smiled. This was going to be too easy. They moved into the burning city like ghosts. Amy took pointer, rifle ready, while Mike covered their rear. Their movements were smooth and silent, or the result of years training in Earth's harshest environments. The first group of robot spiders detected them within seconds. Energy beams shot through the air, where the humans had been standing. But Amy and Mike were no longer there. They had rolled behind cover before the alien sensors could even track their movement. Up in the observation deck, the alien scientists stared at their instruments in confusion. "How are they moving so fast?" asked one. "My scanners can barely follow them." Dr. Rachel Wells watched her people's heart rates and breathing. Both soldiers were completely calm. Their bodies showed no signs of stress or fear. To them, this was just another day at work. Mike tossed a small device around a corner. The explosion that followed destroyed 6 robot spiders and cleared a path to the next building. Amy was already moving before the smoke cleared, her rifle picking off targets with deadly accuracy. "Impossible," whispered Crescithal. "They're not using standard galactic tactics. What kind of combat doctrine is this?" The truth was that Amy and Mike were using tactics developed by humans fighting other humans on Earth. Every move they made had been tested in real combat, against the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Other members of their own species, they reached the first checkpoint in 3 minutes. The galactic record for that same section was 8 minutes. The alien observers began to panic. "Are their weapons malfunctioning?" asked one scientist. "Those energy readings are impossible." Dr. Rachel Wells smiled. "Those aren't energy weapons. They're kinetic projectiles. Bullets. We throw small pieces of metal really fast." The alien stared at her in horror. These humans were using primitive projectile weapons and somehow outperforming the galaxy's most advanced energy systems. Amy and Mike continued through the simulation, treating obstacles that would stop most galactic species like minor inconveniences. They climbed walls that were designed to be impossible to scale. They survived explosions that should have killed them. They took cover behind barriers that wouldn't protect most alien species and somehow stayed completely safe. Halfway through the course, they encountered the simulation's biggest challenge, a massive robot guardian that stood 3 stories tall. Its weapons could level buildings. Its armor was designed to resist any known galactic weapon. Most species needed their entire team in 15 minutes of careful planning to defeat this guardian. Some never managed it at all. Amy looked at Mike and pointed to a building next to the robot. He nodded and started climbing. 30 seconds later, he dropped from above, landing on the guardian's head and jamming an explosive device into its sensor array. The robot fell with a crash that shook the entire simulation chamber. 4 minutes, breathed one of the alien observers. They've been running for 4 minutes. The final challenge was the hostage rescue. A group of simulated civilians were trapped in a building surrounded by automated guns. The standard approach was to disable the weapons one by one, then carefully extract the hostages while avoiding enemy fire. Amy and Mike had a different idea. Mike created a distraction on one side of the building while Amy went through a window. On the other side, she moved through the structure like water, avoiding detection systems that should have been impossible to fool. When the guns turned to shoot at Mike's diversion, Amy was already leading the hostages out the back exit. The entire rescue took 90 seconds. Simulation complete, announced the computer. Time: 4 minutes, 12 seconds. All objectives achieved, 0 casualties. The observation deck fell silent. Dozens of the galaxy's brightest military minds stared at instruments that couldn't explain what they had just witnessed. Amy and Mike walked out of the simulation chamber, barely breathing hard. "Not bad," Amy said, taking off her helmet. "Is there a more challenging level?" Lieutenant Colonel Danny Price watched the alien reactions from the command center. Fear was replacing curiosity in their eyes. These peaceful species were beginning to understand that they had invited something very dangerous into their community. "Sir," said one of his officers, "I think we just became the scariest thing in their galaxy." Danny nodded. The aliens had wanted to test human combat abilities. They had gotten their answer. The question now was what they planned to do about it. Crescithel approached the human delegation, his expression unreadable. As the galaxy's top military commander, he understood warfare better than most. What he had just witnessed was not just superior training or better equipment. These humans moved like they had been born to fight. Every action was efficient, deadly, and controlled. They showed no fear, no hesitation, and no mercy toward their enemies. But more frightening than their violence was their restraint. They could have destroyed everything in that simulation, but they chose to complete the mission with minimal force. "Captain Morrison," Crescithel said slowly, "we need to talk." Captain Elena Rodriguez had been Earth's diplomatic representative for only 3 days. She was already facing the biggest crisis in human history. The Galactic Council was split down the middle about what to do with humanity. Half wanted them locked away on their dangerous planet. The other half wanted to study them like dangerous animals in a zoo. Elena sat in her temporary office aboard the council station, reading reports that made her blood run cold. Alien news broadcasts were calling humans the Deathworld plague and galaxy killers. Some council members were openly discussing whether humanity should be destroyed before they could spread beyond their home system. Agent Carl Jackson knocked on her door and entered without waiting for permission. His face was grim as he placed a datapad on her desk. "Captain, you need to see this. I've been monitoring alien military communications for the past 6 hours. Elena picked up the pad and read the translated messages. Her hands began to shake. "They're mobilizing fleets. 17 different species have quietly moved warships toward the edge of human space," Carl confirmed. "They're not calling it an invasion force, but the ship count suggests they're preparing for a major military operation." Elena stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see dozens of alien vessels moving through space. Beautiful ships with elegant designs, powered by technology humanity could barely understand. Each one could probably destroy entire cities on Earth. "How many people know about this?" she asked. "Just us and Commander Price. I haven't told the rest of the crew yet. Didn't want to cause panic." Elena nodded. Panic was the last thing they needed right now. The human delegation was already outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. If shooting started, they would be dead in seconds. Meanwhile, in the Council's Military Planning Center, War Chief Gaxter studied tactical displays with growing excitement. The reptilian commander had spent his entire life preparing for threats to galactic peace. Now, he finally had a real enemy to fight. "The humans have only one ship," he told his staff officers. "Their technology is primitive. Their numbers are tiny. If we strike now, we can eliminate the threat before it grows." High Military Commander Crescithel listened to the discussion with growing unease. These beings were not the easy targets Gaxter believed them to be. War Chief Crescithel said carefully, "Perhaps we should consider other options. The humans have shown no hostile intentions." Gaxter's yellow eyes flashed with anger. "No hostile intentions?" They admitted their entire species is built for war. Their planet creates nothing but killers. How long before they decide our peaceful worlds would make good conquests? Back on the New Horizon, Sergeant Kelly Martinez was teaching an alien cultural exchange class when the emergency alarm sounded. She had volunteered to show some young alien students what human culture was like. The lesson had been going well until the sirens started. "I'm sorry, Kelly," told her confused students. "We'll have to continue this later." where Captain Jake Morrison was staring at a tactical display that showed dozens of alien ships moving into attack positions around them. "What's our status?" Kelly asked. "Surrounded," Jake replied grimly. 17 different fleets, all armed and ready for combat. They're calling it a defensive formation, but it looks like preparation for an execution. Staff Sergeant Tony Adams joined them, his face dark with anger. "Sir, with respect, maybe it's time we showed these aliens what humans are really capable of." Jake shook his head. "Negative, Sergeant. Fire one shot, and we prove everything they fear about us is true. Our entire species gets judged by what we do in the next few hours." Dr. Benjamin Clark, the mission psychologist, had been monitoring alien communications and studying their behavior patterns. What he discovered was worse than anyone realized. "Captain," he said, entering the bridge with his research notes, "I think I understand what's happening. These species have never experienced real conflict. Their idea of warfare is completely different from ours." "Explain," Jake ordered. "Most galactic conflicts last for years, with minimal casualties. Battles are more like chess games than actual fighting. They negotiate between every move. The idea of quick, decisive action is completely foreign to them." Jake frowned. "So when they saw our combat demonstration, they saw creatures that could end their entire civilization in a matter of hours," Benjamin finished. "To them, we're not just warriors. We're an extinction event." The situation reached its breaking point when Counselor Vorthen made his demand. During an emergency session, a tall, insect-like being stood before the assembled representatives and called for immediate action. "Fellow council members," Vorthen declared, "we cannot allow this threat to continue. I propose we demonstrate the full extent of human combat capabilities. Let them show us their true nature when faced with real danger." Many aliens in the assembly cheered, others looked worried. A few seemed ready to flee the station entirely. Captain Alina Rodriguez stood up from her seat in the diplomatic section. "Counselor Vorthen, what exactly are you proposing?" "A real combat test," Vorthen replied, his compound eyes gleaming. "Not a simulation, but actual combat against trained galactic forces. If humans are as dangerous as they claim, let them. Prove it." Alina felt her heart sink. This was exactly what they had been trying to avoid. "Counselor, that would be an act of war against our species." "Only if you lose," Vorthen said, with what might have been a smile. Dr. Rachel Wells, monitoring the discussion from the medical bay, immediately began preparing for casualties. She had a horrible feeling that the aliens had no idea what they were about to unleash. The vote was called quickly. 47 species voted in favor of the combat demonstration. 31 voted against. 12 abstained. The motion passed. War Chief Gaxter was chosen to lead the demonstration. He selected 17 of his best warriors, armed them with the galaxy's most advanced weapons, and gave them clear instructions: disable the human ship and capture the crew alive if possible. What Gaxter did not understand was that Major Patricia Lewis and her security team had been preparing for exactly this scenario since the moment they left Earth. Every human on the mission had been psychologically conditioned to expect betrayal and violence. Major Captain Jake Morrison said over the comm, "You have permission to defend this ship and crew by any means necessary." Patricia smiled grimly as she checked her weapon. Understood, sir. Rules of engagement?" "Try not to kill them all," Jake replied. "We still need some aliens left to negotiate with." The attack began at 14:30 Galactic Standard Time. Assault team moved toward the New Horizon in their advanced combat suits, confident that their superior numbers and technology would make this a quick victory. They had studied human tactics from the simulation records. They knew about human speed and aggression. They thought they were prepared. They were wrong. Major Patricia Lewis had fought in urban warfare on 3 different continents. She had survived battles against enemies who knew every trick in the human playbook. These aliens, for all their advanced technology, moved like beings who had never faced real combat. The battle lasted exactly 97 seconds. When the firing stopped, 17 alien warriors were unconscious or disabled, scattered. around the docking bay like broken toys. Not one human had suffered so much as a scratch. Patricia stood over Gaxa's unconscious form, her weapon lowered but ready. Around her, her team secured the area with practiced efficiency. "Bridge, this is Lewis," she reported calmly. "Threat neutralized. No friendly casualties. 17 hostile combatants down but alive." The silence that followed her report lasted for nearly a full minute. Then, slowly, alien voices began filling the communication channels. Fear, shock, and growing panic spread through the galactic fleet like wildfire. These humans had just defeated the galaxies. Elite warriors using nothing but primitive weapons and tactics that no alien could understand, and they had done it while showing perfect restraint. Taking prisoners instead of killing enemies would come to destroy them. The galaxy was beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. Commander Bill Thompson watched the alien fleet through the New Horizons main window. Dozens of warships hung in space around them, their weapons powered down, but still aimed at his ship. The aliens were confused and frightened after seeing their best warriors defeated in less than 2 minutes. Bill had been a naval officer for 23 years. He had commanded ships in Earth's most dangerous waters and faced enemies who wanted nothing more than to kill him and his crew. But this situation was different. These aliens were not evil. They were just scared. He opened a communication channel that would reach every ship in the fleet and every member of the Galactic Council. His voice would be heard by billions of beings across the galaxy. "My name is Commander Bill Thompson of the Earth vessel New Horizon," he began, his words calm and steady. "I know you are all frightened by what you have seen today. I know you think we came here to conquer your worlds and destroy your people. I am here to tell you that you are wrong." In the Council Assembly Hall, thousands of alien representatives listened in complete silence. Some were still shaking from fear. Others looked ready to run. A few seemed curious about what this human leader would say next. "We did not come to your galaxy with weapons of war," Bill continued. "We came with one ship, a small crew, and a simple message. We wanted to meet you. We wanted to learn from you. We wanted to join your community of peaceful worlds." Dr. Nancy Green was in the medical bay, treating the injured alien warriors from the battle. Her gentle hands worked carefully to repair damage that could have been much worse. The aliens she was helping had come to capture or kill her, but she showed them nothing but kindness. One of the wounded warriors, a young Krathan named Vexmal, watched in amazement as the human doctor bandaged his injuries. "Why are you helping me?" he asked through the translation device. "I tried to hurt your people." Nancy smiled at him. "Because you're hurt and I'm a doctor. That's reason enough." Vexmal had never experienced such kindness from an enemy. In his warrior culture, defeated foes were either killed or abandoned. The idea that these dangerous humans would heal those who attacked them was beyond his understanding. "I understand that our abilities frighten you," Bill's voice continued over the communication system. "Our world made us strong because it had. 2. Earth does not forgive weakness. It does not protect the helpless. We learned to be hard because anything else meant death." Elder Sage Corinthal, the oldest member of the Galactic Council, listened to Bill's words with growing interest. In his thousands of years of life, he had seen many species rise and fall. Most strong species became conquerors. Most peaceful species remained weak. But these humans seemed to be something new. "But we also learned something else," Bill said. "We learned that strength without wisdom is destruction. We learned that the powerful must protect those who cannot protect themselves. Not because we have to, but because it is right." On the alien flagship, High Military Commander Krezethel was reviewing the battle recordings for the 10th time. The human tactics were unlike anything he had ever seen. They moved with perfect coordination, struck with deadly precision, but stopped the moment their enemies were defeated. Any other species with such capabilities would have killed every attacker and demanded the surrender of the entire fleet. The humans had simply secured their prisoners and returned to their normal duties. Captain Morrison Kresoth called over the communication system. "I must ask you something. Why did your people not kill my warriors?" You had every right to defend yourselves with lethal force. Jake Morrison, who was standing beside Bill on the bridge, answered the question. Because killing should always be the last choice, not the first. Your people were not trying to murder us in cold blood. They were trying to protect their homes and families from what they saw as a threat. We understand that fear. War Chief Gaxter lay in the medical bay, his body broken, but his spirit crushed even more. He had led the finest warriors in the galaxy against these humans, confident in his superior numbers and technology. The battle had been over before it truly began. Major Patricia Lewis entered the medical bay to check on the prisoners. Gaxter looked up at her with a mixture of fear and confusion. Why? He asked simply. Patricia sat down beside his bed. Why? What? Why did you not kill me? I came to destroy your ship and capture your people. In any civilized warfare, you would have executed me as an enemy commander. Patricia was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to explain something that seemed obvious to humans, but apparently was not to aliens. Because you were doing what you thought was right, she said finally. What? You thought we were a threat to innocent people? Yacht. That makes you a protector, not a villain. Protectors deserve respect even when they're wrong about who the real threat is. Bill's speech continued, reaching every corner of galactic civilization. We offer you our strength not as conquerors, but as guardians. We know what it means to face extinction. We know what it costs to survive when the universe itself seems determined to kill you. We want to use that knowledge to help others, not to hurt them. The first voice to respond came from an unexpected source. Counselor Vorthen, who had demanded the combat demonstration, stood up in the assembly hall. Commander Thompson, he said, his voice shaking slightly, I owe your people an apology. I believe that might and violence were the same thing. You showed me the difference? Other voices began joining the conversation. Species that had been calling for human containment started expressing different opinions. The tide was turning, but slowly Dr. Lisa Carter, who had started this crisis with her presentation about Earth, now found herself in the strange position of being a celebrity among alien scientists. They wanted to know everything about human biology, psychology, and culture. Dr. Carter asked a young Malari researcher, how do your people maintain such discipline in combat? Our recordings show perfect coordination even under extreme stress. Lisa smiled. We train together, fight together, and trust each other completely. When you know that your teammate will die before letting you down, it makes you willing to do the same for them. The turning point came when Elder Sage Corinthal spoke. His ancient voice carried the weight of centuries as he addressed the assembly. In all my years of existence, I have never witnessed controlled power of this magnitude. These beings could have killed every warrior who attacked them. They could have demanded our immediate surrender. They could have threatened to destroy any world that opposed them. He paused, letting his words sink in throughout the hall. Instead, they healed their enemies and asked for understanding. They showed us that true strength is not measured by the ability to destroy, but by the wisdom to choose restraint. I have seen conquerors, and I have seen protectors. These humans are protectors. The final vote was not even close. The Galactic Council voted 847 to 23 to offer humanity full membership and invite them to establish what became known as the Human Protectorate. Lieutenant Commander Greg Murphy and Dr. Sharon Adams found themselves leading the first joint human-alien research team, sharing Earth's survival techniques while learning alien wisdom and technology 6 months later. When the Zolonian Empire launched its invasion of the Outer Rim territories, it was human ships that responded first to the distress calls. The battle was brief and decisive. The invaders had expected to face the galaxy's usual slow, careful military response. Instead, they met humans. The war ended in 3 days. Commander Bill Thompson stood on the bridge of the newly constructed starship Terra, watching as human and alien crews worked side by side. They had found their place among the stars not as conquerors, but as the shield that protected civilization. The most dangerous species in the galaxy had become its most trusted guardians, proving that evolution's greatest gift was not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to choose when not to use it.